Hello and welcome everyone to episode 36 of GuildGab, a show about everything Guild Wars 2, focusing on PvE, lore, and everything Heart of Thorns. Today we're going to be talking about the beta that happened on Tuesday. And before we do that though, let me introduce everyone. I am AuroraPeachy and my wonderful co-hosts are Akasaurus Rex, Corvus Plays, the RPG Shack, and MMO Inks.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Hello, everybody.
Nice to see you. Nice.
Of course, as always, you can check us all out on Twitters. Those are our Twitter handles, so go over there and follow us and check us out. We are always talking about everything Guild Wars 2 when Corvus isn't talking about dying.
Yes. Also,
which is rare.
Apparently the pre-show tag's still on as well.
Oh my god. That's okay. We're doing it live. We're doing it live. All right. So let's...
Forge ahead.
I wasn't looking at chat. They were trying to remind me, but I wasn't looking. That's my fault. Anyway, let's talk about the beta that happened on Tuesday. So I believe, as our GuildGab layout here, the bottom row got to experience this fantastical beta. So I guess Ak and I will simply live vicariously through your experiences today. So what were your overall impressions? Was it good, bad, worth it?
What? It wasn't that good.
Corvus is a hater.
Stop being so emo, Corvus.
You need to
I had a great time.
It was amazing.
I loved it.
Yeah,
really
I had a great time. I thought it was. I mean, we'll get more into it as we go along here, but I got into the second and third session. Thanks again to ArenaNet for figuring that some bugs out. There were some bugs with some of the accounts where some of us had a hard time, and they worked with us to get, I think, most of us back in.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It like compared to what we played at Resd, it just obviously a lot of work's gone on in the background, but especially playing the Revenant on your home gear as well. That integration with the world was just that much more seamless, and like the maps are beautiful. You got to play the first bit of the mission, and it was phenomenal. And there was so much to do. I don't think anyone could complain of looking for things to do, even in 6 hours. And I only got to play the first session before I passed out asleep. But it was it was incredible. And the Revenant is fun. It's so much
really
more
fun.
fun than it was at Resd. And
Yeah.
Was there anything different about the Revenant as far as
I don't
skills?
think so. I think
No.
just being able to use my Naga for my skills and stuff just made the whole thing feel better.
Right.
I tell you what though, Malix is incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
Really?
like, oh god, Jalis is useless. Do you know what? There's
I don't know about
What?
Really?
like,
This is so interesting.
The thing
Yeah.
is, like,
Go ahead.
I,
Go on.
while I was streaming, I switched to axe and mace, and I kind of figured out, all right, so you do axe 2 for the fire field and then 3 for the blast, and then you generate might for everybody. But everyone was running around who was Jalis, was laying down the stability thing, the path thing. And unfortunately, when you blast that, it turns into swiftness. So when you're trying to fight the breacher things, everyone's like, let's put the shiny path down. And I was like, no! Jalis is useless. And then... But I just did so much more damage with Malix, even though we were all like decked out in celestial gear and a lot of it was kind of condition based. Malix with axe and mace, so much fun, like really, really fun and really destructive.
Did you sit down and like read all the tooltips, read the skills, kind of like figure out in your head? Because I could see someone who's using Malix who doesn't do that. Like if they don't have a lot of time to play it, like in the previous betas, you know, you don't have time. You didn't have time to sit there and read every single skill, you know. But now in the meantime, we have had time to do that. So get a little more used to how to effectively play Malix. So did you feel more prepared to play Malix this time? Do you think that's why it was more fun?
I think so. Yeah. There's one of the skills. I think it was either skill 8 or skill 9 on your utility bar. That it draws conditions in around you, and you take on those conditions, and obviously the conditions increase your attack power. But if no one's got any conditions around you, there's no point using it because it just doesn't do anything. And having that, it's kind of like the thing that Ink said the other week with like Longbow 4 on Ranger, knowing when it's a situational thing that you've got to use it. And when you get that time to sit down and, you know, even scroll through the traits and see what's going to benefit running that kind of thing, running Malix the most, you end up with a quite a hefty powerhouse. I really liked it.
Yeah, see, I was lucky enough to, you know how it was kind of, it went live early for a little bit, like an hour or two early or something. I managed to get in then, so I spent that time kind of learning the Revenant as best as I can, like going over everything. Yeah, I really enjoyed both of the legends. Actually, I don't think I really had a preference, but Axe and Mace was definitely the best kind of weapon set for Revenant for sure.
Agreed.
Had the most fun with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did the bad thing, and I camped Jalis a little too much. But I was using Axe Mace, which is not necessarily like a Jalis set. I think it's more of a Malix set.
Yeah. Just
because of the torment, the conditions that it pops out. But Axe Mace just feels a lot more fluid. And I know Hammer's supposed to feel a little slower. It's a big wieldy weapon, but the damage-wise too, and this is a lot of this has to do with the celestial gear that we had. But Hammer just didn't really pump out enough damage. You know, it has its usefulness. But you know, Mace Axe was just felt better. I enjoy being in melee more, I think, with the Revenant, and so that worked out a lot better.
Yeah. So I was curious, guys. Were you able to choose like any race when you were doing this?
Just human.
Okay, so it was,
just human.
Okay, it's still human. Okay.
It was interesting when you created your Revenant, you got to choose human, you got to choose your sex, and then you didn't have any of like the personal story options, so you chose the thing you wanted over your face. Yeah. And then it pushed you all the way to the end, and then it dropped you in Red Rock Bastion in the Silver Wastes once you'd started, and then you got to do a little bit of the story that we'd not seen before. Massive spoiler that we're not going to mention in here because people weren't watching this stream, but it was pretty awesome.
Let's just say, and I'm not going to spoil the story because I know how a lot of people feel about that, and I don't want to ruin that experience for people. But the end of that extended first story you do in Verdant Brink was just, I was overexcited, and I am extremely. I know some people. I've seen some comments from some people on YouTube about how they wanted a little more out of that scene that happens, but I like where it's at only because I feel like it's going to develop as we go.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
It could not be finished either. It is just beta.
Yeah, there's that as well.
Exactly.
There's that as well.
Nice.
Possible.
But super happy with that story. It was a big like one of those oh my god moments. I love what was going on.
Sweet.
That's awesome. So what new areas of the map were accessible that weren't accessible in the first beta?
How big was the area we got to play in? It wasn't the full map. It was like
about a third of the map.
About a third of it.
You're still in Verdant Brink, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was massive.
There were roughly speaking 4 new areas ish. So you got the bit that you got the bit that you did in the original beta demo thing, and I'm sure one of you guys want to talk about this. But the first place that I went was the ruins in the south, and it was just because I caught the beginning of an event, and I followed the I followed the NPCs down, and it was great. It was pretty much like an escort quest that you follow them down to the ruins, and you have to take it back and all that. But when you finally get there, it's a fairly decent sized area. These ruins, and you have about a dozen control points that you have to capture, and so everyone's kind of just running around trying to capture all these different control points before night falls, which I'm sure we're going to talk about in a second. So making sure that you have to capture all of these bits before the night falls is there was a great event outside of it where you pick up the Pale Reaver sniper rifles, and the the event completion depends on how many people you kill specifically with those weapons, which was kind of cool rather than people just camping their usual weapons. And there was an adventure in there as well. There was an adventure that we'd not seen before, which was a nightmare. It was so unintuitive. But it's just like it basically just drops you in this room full of like the jungle tendrils, and it says collect salvage, and you have no skills, and you just have to run around picking up bits of pieces from the floor, all the while these poison fields and damage fields are being chucked down. And but I loved it. The ruins were so cool, and
They were so good.
I hope there's a lot of that in the finished game.
Yeah. So when I got in. I headed south first as well. I think I was following an event. I don't really remember exactly why I went that direction, but I didn't have gliding unlocked at that point yet. So I came to that hole in the ground, that Colosseum, and I seen the little ledges, and I'm like, oh, it's clearly a jumping puzzle. So I started jumping along the ledges, and eventually it just stops. There's nowhere to go. You can't get back the way you came. And you can't jump anywhere. Luckily, you're far enough down that you can like fall and not quite die. But the second you fall down and you get hit by a tendril, you get kicked out, and you're like, "Oh, what just happened?" So then there's a guy outside, and he tells you, "Hey, we need salvage." So you go back in, and I'm picking the salvage up, and I'm running around trying to avoid everything, and I'm like, "Okay, I have a salvage. Where do I take it?" So I tried to take it back out the door. That doesn't work. So then eventually I figured out, okay, I pick up, like I eventually figured out that you just keep picking salvage up until you hit whatever the threshold is. The first threshold's like 10 for bronze.
Yeah.
But if you're in there by yourself, and I don't know if more people can join you or not, because it was just me and some NPCs. And the tendrils seem to not care at all about the NPCs, because every tendril in there, and this place is packed with tendrils, is focusing on you. You stop to pick something up, you got to be really smart about when you use your dodge, when you can pick salvage up. You know, there's the circles. The cool thing about it was there were these speed mushrooms in this little tiny Colosseum. So and that's 3 tiers into the mushroom mastery. But if you had that unlocked, you could speed yourself up while you were in there, I guess, to pick more up and such. But that would make it, I think, a little bit easier. But I really enjoyed that one. I think I enjoyed that one more than I enjoyed the original flamethrower adventure we've seen.
It was a lot more involving, wasn't it? Rather than just
even though you had no skills, I felt like I don't know, I just enjoyed it a lot more for whatever reason.
Mm.
So yeah, that was an adventure?
Yeah, that was one of the adventures. In the south.
Cool.
There was another adventure way up in the north that I didn't get to do, but I seen Richie doing it. And that was this complicated jumping puzzle, gliding, mushroom jumping, collect bugs kind of thing. It's really cool how they incorporate these masteries into these adventures. Like the masteries, you know, each adventure is a little bit different, which masteries really make a difference. And if you have those masteries, you are just going to have such an easier time doing well at these, adventures.
Yeah. The weird thing is that I picked up no mastery points in the 2 hours I was in there. I just don't think I did enough bits and pieces. But it kind of confused me a little bit, because it's changed slightly since the old beta that we played at Revenant at PAX South, where before, when you got the mastery point, you could automatically drop it in and you'd unlock that. And you'd unlock base gliding, but now you get the mastery point, and then you have to get a level's worth of experience before you use it, which I actually think is a really good thing to do, because it kind of puts people off running around the maps, ignoring everything, collecting all the mastery points, and then going back. So you've got to incorporate your PvE experience into collecting the mastery points as well, and then actually having to play the game to be able to use them, which I think is a really good step.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's how they had always planned it. It's just in the first beta they automatically gave you that first mastery point so that you could preview the gliding immediately.
Experience it.
So this time they took that away so that you couldn't experience stuff like gliding and mushroom jumping immediately. So it gave you a preview of how it actually is going to be, which is what you just described. Is even after you put the mastery point like unlocks the track, right? And then you have to get that bar's worth of experience, level's worth of experience, in order to get the reward from that track.
So they've kind of reversed it. So what you do now is you you have to. It was a little bit confusing. I think it needs a tiny bit more refinement before it goes live. They did change the UI again. Things look a little bit better fleshed out. But you pull that screen up and you pick whichever mastery reward track you want to go for, and then you click like this little check mark at the very top, and it automatically pulls up like an experience bar for the first mastery. You then have to level that up. I think the first one was like 258,000 experience or something. You first have to level that up, and then you can put 1 point or however many points into that to actually unlock it. And then it will simply go to the next one unless you choose a different track.
Oh, cool.
And I think that was a bit confusing for some people. I know I kept, like, I had it checked off. That was the easy part. But then I kept trying to put points. So I was clicking on everything. Can I put points in here? Can I unlock this? Why can I not use any of my points? I don't understand. And you had to do a lot of. I didn't really feel, and this is probably incorrect, but I didn't feel like I was getting very much experience, or the bar never seemed to move when I was killing things. But when you complete an event, you could noticeably tell the bar was moving.
You actually get quite a bit, don't you?
Yeah.
But I think
I don't want it to sound like it moves fast, because it does not move fast. These things will take a while to unlock, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
It's good. Yeah, very good to hear.
But that's
Plus,
what they're
it unlocks
pushing.
for your account, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
So it's okay that it moves slow, and it's going to take you a lot of playtime in order to earn, the max rank in exploration, which is gliding and mushroom jumping, I think, or are they separate?
They're separate.
They were separate.
They're separate, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then that gives you, even though it's going to be unlocked for your whole account, you still get that sense of progression. If you suddenly jump onto another character and suddenly they can't glide, you're going to feel like you've gone back a step. So that's good that it unlocks for your account, but that it also takes a while. It takes a while to unlock it, because that's going to, extend your playtime. You don't want to, in a month, you've got every single mastery track unlocked. If this is how they're planning for progression to go in the game going on, it needs to be very difficult to max them all out.
Yeah.
Someone's just raised a point in chat and says, concern the mastery bars you could bypass using tomes and writs of experience. And I agree with Kill Chain. I'm relatively sure that they won't have an effect on your mastery. I think
They've said that they won't. I believe they confirmed that.
Yeah.
They're well aware that.
I'm a little unsure about the writs, but because that gives experience flat out. I'm not sure about writs, but we know for sure, at least at this point, unless ArenaNet comes and corrects us, tomes will not have any effect on masteries.
Yeah,
that's a very good move, I think, because again, you could. I mean, because like I'm sure loads of players are doing. I think you're doing it as well, Inks. If you're saving all your tomes to Insta 80 or Revenant, and then you've got another 150 tomes or whatever sitting around, and you just pump it into mastery points, it kind of renders the entire system useless, because then you don't need to go around exploring this world. You can just chuck a whole load of experience that that you farmed for into it.
Yeah, see, I'm a little unsure about writs of experience. They may have included that with the tomes. I'm not sure, but I think writs give you something like, I'm throwing a ballpark number out here. It's probably incorrect slightly, but 23k or so experience, and that sounds like a lot.
It's 5% of your current level, so you need 20 whatever level you are to level up.
Okay, so they may not even work then. I don't know. It's hard to. I guess it's kind of hard to say, because levels won't really be a thing once you hit 80 anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
But 5%, even if 5%, I guess you could stockpile if they did work. This is a big if, but if they did work, even 5%, you might be able to power through some of them. But the first level was 250,000. I think the second level doubled that, so it was like 500 something K. Third level, I don't know, because I never got past. I never filled up 2. So. Yeah.
But the thing is, you can just imagine people using tomes and writs inside the first week of the game, and then go, "Oh my god, this expansion sucks. There's nothing to do.
There's no end game.
There's no content.
Yeah.
And like those kinds of people, you can just like basically take to a plank and shove them off the ship, because I really can't stand those people. Like, it's like, why the hell, when you're raving about, if you're like, oh, I love this game and I'm such a great player, it's like, why the hell do you power level through the whole dang thing in like 1 week
Yeah.
or 3 days. Like, why? These
Gotta
things are meant to be
enjoy it.
played months and months, man. Why the hell are you doing that? And,
Or if you do that, and that's how you have fun, okay, but then you're not allowed to complain. Oh, now there's nothing
exactly.
to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone in
How
chat
good
brought up
is
a
it?
good point. Verani says, I could have spent 4 hours just looking around and doing nothing.
Absolutely.
How beautiful and how deep and dense were the maps.
It's gorgeous. Like
It's
the
incredible, dude.
we've seen, we've seen the quality of like weapons and armor skins improve in Guild Wars 2 since the launch, especially with like the new Black Lion stuff that's coming out. And we got a bit of a teaser of what new maps are looking like with Edge of the Mists and the World v World preview and the Stronghold. And Verdant Brink just takes it to a whole extra level. It's a lot of it's familiar. A lot of it will feel kind of familiar, like particular bits from the jungle parts and the and like some of the ruins. But something like the Itzel village, like the trees, just absolutely
So good. Like
gorgeous.
it was like
Oh.
the textures and stuff. Like it, I don't know what they've done. Like people were speculating before anyone had played it, right? That they were gonna somehow maybe up the graphics for the expansion somehow. And I don't know. It definitely feels like they might have done something like that. Maybe they've just used like really high res textures or something. But especially up at the Itzel village, like it was crazy. I tweeted a screenshot out, and it was just, I don't know. It's Guild Wars 2 has never looked this good.
Wow.
It really hasn't, and it's just man, it's beautiful.
Back when I was at PAX East, I had a talk with Izzy and Matt Werfel about the textures, because if you look at the fire in Verdant Brink or in Heart of Thorns, you can tell there's a noticeable difference between fire we have in the game now and fire that exists in Verdant Brink. The textures on the fire, the way it moves, the way it flows, it's a very different. And what I was told back then, and I think I don't have confirmation on this, but it probably applies to everything in Verdant Brink, is it's not so much that the graphics are necessarily better, like the engine hasn't necessarily gotten better. It's that ArenaNet has gotten better using that engine, and they're able to basically retexture more advancedly. That's not even a word. They can they can retexture things a lot better. So it's the same engine that we're all used to that hasn't necessarily seen a big upgrade. They're just better at utilizing that engine, and so they're able to bring the ambient lighting that we see, the way that the
lighting
vines
was
move and
crazy
see a
good.
lot. The vines move. They seem like they're alive half the time.
I'm so excited, you guys. I'm so
They're not
excited.
these. It's not like just this static wall of vines. They really are like moving and kind of breathing, and it really is the design of the map graphically is just, it really is stunning.
Yeah, and even like the enemies as well. Like you've got your usual kind of supply of like Mordran wolves and the trolls and that kind of thing, but the what are they called? The breaches, the big breacher things that come out of the ground and they glow with like this really weird insecty green. It's beautiful. Like, it looks phenomenal, and it's like nothing that we've seen in the game before. And again, just going back to the Itzel village, it's just like, it's so intricate and there's so much to explore, and you've got like these little kind of rope bridges between little sections, and but interestingly, there weren't any Itzel in it, were there?
Yes,
What?
Were there?
Yeah.
I didn't
Below,
find any.
just past the tree village, if you kept going in that direction, there were some events that involved them as well. The Itzel were like the red Hylic, the red typical looking Hylic that they rode. Some of them rode beetles, some of them were just kind of standing around. There was a couple of events with those. I wasn't able to push the event to the right place, but you could fight a Wyvern in the new one, but he appeared on a different plateau. It didn't take you to like that higher part of the map, like you took a helicopter
down on
to
the
the
ground.
original. He was down on the ground, and it was a different, separate event that you could push. The playing area was much larger and such, so I didn't get to push him to that point, but yeah, he was there.
Everyone in chat's talking about the mushroom people. Did you guys see them as well? The little mushroom soldier dudes.
in the caves. Yeah,
There was
So good.
So the mushroom people were interesting. There was an event with them as well, where one of the Nuwok takes you on this. I don't remember if it's a collection event or like an escort collection event, but he takes you underground, like underneath the tree village.
Cool.
And there's this cave, which I think there's another event that happens there with a big sundial. But in this particular event, you start to fight the mushroom people, the mushroom guys. And what's funny about them is, depending on their difficulty, they scale in size. So you have the regular ones who are very small, very kind of toad-like, you know. And then the veterans are a little bit bigger, and the elites are a little bit bigger, and then the champions are like these giant mushroom people that you have to fight.
I missed that.
And
Like a stir fry.
what's funny about them
so
is when they die, they explode in like poison or
Yes.
something.
Oh, wicked.
So
Yeah.
when we killed the champion, anybody who was like in his little area were all instantly down. There was just
Oh my God.
a field of people who were dead. Everybody had to res them
Exploding
up afterwards.
enemies.
But
I love
the mushroom
exploding
people were
enemies.
fantastic. The two mounted enemies were just amazing. Just so much fun to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Sure.
what's interesting about them is they're one model, but they have two different states to the model. So, for example, the Mordrum riding the dinosaur, the kind of raptor kind of like pet.
What?
You fought him for a little while, and then he got to a certain point where I believe you could break him and knock him off the mount.
Yeah.
And then once you knock him
wow.
off the mount, the mount has its own attacks, and it has its own set of like skills and stuff that it uses. So
Oh, cool.
that was
So you've
really
got to
interesting.
fight. You've got to fight them both, haven't you, at the same time? Which
Yeah,
is kind of-
yeah,
Oh
and
my
the
gosh.
beetles were kind of the same. He had a break bar where if you successfully hit his break bar down, him and the beetle would both like
man.
take a dive, and then you could do extra damage before he remounted.
Yeah.
Really
That's
cool.
So awesome.
Really cool
What was
mechanics.
still annoying? What was still annoying though was that the terragriffs still appear in big big packs.
Terragriffs.
It's just like constant knockdown, and you're trying to get back up and start fighting, but they just knock you down and down and down. I hate terragriffs.
There were JD Shadow brings up something interesting. So he talks about Zelda, and what's really funny about this is Josh Foreman just had like his own YouTube. So totally kind of off topic, but he had his own YouTube channel, and he talks about these guys in Zelda, and I forget their names. They're called like the
Dark Nuts.
Dark Nuts, right?
Yeah.
So there are enemies, there are Mordrum who act exactly like Dark Nuts. It even says in their description that they're shielded. If you try to attack them from the front, you do 0 damage. You cannot hurt them.
Nice.
And so you have to flank them, go behind them to actually do damage. They're the opposite of the beetles that are in Silver Waste, where you can only hurt them like in that small cone, and they're shielded everywhere else. Well, these guys are just like the Dark Nuts there. You have to hurt them from behind, and they're totally shielded from... And that was amazing because everybody is like rushing these guys and beating on them in their face, and you're doing no
Nothing's
damage.
happened.
And then you're like, why am I not hurting
I'm
these
from
guys? And then you have to
behind.
pay attention.
It's like read the tooltip.
Yeah.
So
It's- there was a lot of that stuff where it's like if you paid attention to the tooltips, the enemy descriptions. I don't know. It's awesome. I just had a lot of fun
So much fun with it.
just with the different
did either
enemy
of you
mechanics.
manage
and stuff.
to? Did either of you manage to start gliding at all?
No,
Yes.
Damn you!
So I unlocked gliding. I didn't unlock it at first. I think in my second session I finally went around and did enough events on purpose to unlock it. Because I'd done like most of the exploration at that time, and there were definitely some places you could get to that had like there were some times where there was like alternate ways to get to it, but if you could glide, you could just get there quicker,
Super easy.
which was
yeah.
nice. And gliding has
Loved
seen
gliding, dude.
like the gliding controls, the opening your parachute, the opening the glider.
So much better. than
Yes,
last
so
time.
much better. And this was kind of like a mental block for me because I'm so used to when I first played it, the first 2 times I played it, you jump and you free fall and then you open it, right? But now if you just jump and hold spacebar down, it opens like right away.
Oh,
You
that's
don't
good.
have to wait for the free fall anymore.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for the thing to tell you to press space or anything. It's just
Right.
it's super organic, like it would be in a Zelda game or anything else like that. It's perfect. And so I
sounds
was
like a
just
really good
every time I
change.
jumped, I was just gliding for like a split second before I hit the ground again. It's so good.
How does the size of the Verdant Brink match up against like the zones that we currently have interior, and like how did the whole like 3 different biomes work, or were you guys able to access the three different kinds of biomes? Like, how did the like going between them kind of work like that? I was curious about how that.
You know, they were talking about how it was gonna kind of be big in a different way. You know, it wasn't necessarily on the map be bigger than everything else, but
Yeah.
it would feel it. And they're totally right. Like, it felt massive, and the fact that like this was only a portion of Verdant Brink, like it was huge. It took me, hours to properly go around and see everything I could see and find everything there, and that isn't even the whole zone. And you're walking around, you're looking around, and then you have to take mental notes, like, oh, this is like a road that goes kind of down here, so I need to remember to come and explore this bit again, just lower down or something. It was amazing. You could see places that you could get up to higher later on after you've got like mushroom masteries and stuff like that. It's brilliant, really, really good. Felt massive.
Yeah, I think certainly we got at least 2 biomes, didn't we? We got kind of like the jungle floor, and then up in the treetops, which is where I assume the Itzel village was based, unless they were just keeping us all in one biome and it just had a lot of diversity.
I thought about that too. I think, believe it or not, I think that was one biome. There were certainly some caves and some caverns you could go into, and you felt like you were underground a bit. But I don't think that's the true underground of the map. Those were really small areas, small caves, small, corridors to different places. And you could get to a decent height in the map. The tree village, for example, got pretty decently high. But I don't think that's necessarily the canopy either. Just because the canopy is really full of ships. And there were a couple places where there were like blown up or down ships or surrounded in fire and vines, but I don't really think we got to see the full canopy or really any decent part of the canopy.
Wow.
And I really don't think we got to see the bottom floor either. There was a giant, massive pit like in the center of the third of the map that we got to see. No discernible way to like really get down there, and I believe like I could be wrong, but I think that there's like an underground part of that. You can't simply fly into it. That doesn't work. You need to find the proper way to get down into it. But so I think that was mostly like at least 90% or 95%. That was all ground floor we got to play on.
Yeah,
and it was. Kilchain was saying. Kilchain was saying like the size of Queensdale, at least the size of Queensdale. These are without the canopy and without the underground. Let's just strip those away for a second. Even without that,
this is like one biome.
These are big maps.
Wow.
Like not even just playability wise. The map itself, at least this map, was large.
Huge.
It felt large. Yeah.
It was.
Did you guys have any performance issues? Because the map was so big and detailed and...
Oh, in Guild Wars, right? Yeah. What?
What? Oh, okay.
Oh my god.
Hey!
That one took me a second.
Yeah, that took a long time to register.
This is the actual show, not the post show, so my mind is not in the gutter yet.
Yeah,
Alex's rod strikes again.
I don't really think I had any problems with the game. I had like 1 or 2 crashes, but it was because I was trying to. What was I trying to do exactly? I was trying to do something and it didn't like it, and it kept crashing me out of the game. I'll think of it in a minute.
For me, it was supremely smooth. It was just really, really nice. It wasn't It wasn't like a like the beta experience we had when Guild Wars 2 was originally in beta, but obviously it's an expansion and not an actual game launch. But just considering that the texture quality was increased, it was still in beta. It was exceptionally smooth, and I was I play on like full graphics anyway, and I was playing on full then, and it looked gorgeous, and it was 60 FPS, and that's while I was streaming as well. So it was gorgeous. I meant to say, in the caves, did you guys find that sun totem thing that was hung up on a wall?
Yeah.
That one of the highlight could put
It
up.
was so pretty.
Yeah, there's an event that involves that with the Zintel trying to convert the other Hylic, the new Hylic. So they have a little sundial shrine, very cool looking.
Yeah,
so
it's
cool.
There was another cave that I tried to get to in the first beta, the first closed right after PAX and Res. You can actually take the river. There's a river up a little bit north. You can actually take the river to get down to you can glide over to this door as well, and it's a carved door in the side of a mountain or in the side of this cliff. And when you go inside, it's the shrine to, I'm going to mispronounce it, Amayale or something. I'm pronouncing
like
that.
that.
But the ceiling was these like lamps, these pods that came down, and it just lit the whole area up. Lots of screenshots out there of this area, but it was beautiful.
Yeah.
There's the lighting that was in there and everything. I think there was an event that happened there, but I missed it. But yeah, that whole room, that whole cave was really, really something.
It was, just.
What
I'm
did
going
you-
to play it again.
I know. I woke up this morning really wanting to play it.
Soon when it's ready.
What did you guys think about interacting with the Itzel and the Nuhawk? Because there was Nuhawk that you could see as well, right? I saw someone
Around,
standing
yeah,
next to
part of-
one, and you can kind of see the size difference.
Yeah.
Part of events and stuff.
I didn't find any, so I've got nothing to add here.
They were all over the tree village.
Yeah, everywhere, dude.
I must have been up there at night while they were hiding away.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's another question. The day-night cycle. How did that work?
Night is insane. It's just death as far as the eye can see.
It's pretty brutal.
Wow.
Like day is hard enough. Like we were saying, Inks was saying, it goes back to Guild Wars 1, where like if the NPCs fall over and die, that's it, game over. But then night happens, and then everything just gives birth to Mordrum. Like you wander around and you die. Honestly, it's really, really brutal. But when night falls, on the map, all these little grey circles come up, which say like rally points contested or something, which doesn't disable nearby waypoints, but it highlights areas that you need to protect from Mordrum. And if the Mordrum take him over, that little thing disappears. And when night starts, I think all the outposts lock automatically, and you have to take them back. And what you get on the map that's really, really useful is you get these little gold circles where packed soldiers are. So they're like mini event chains all on their own, where you have to escort packed soldiers to take back these things. So rather than just kind of like hanging around and waiting for an event chain to start, from the starting area in the Verdant Brink, it just seems to me like everything just spreads out from there. So you essentially have, you know how like in like some maps you can kind of jump around and catch the different event trains. And kind of farm that. It doesn't seem like you can do that in Verdant Brink. It's like you choose an event chain and you have to stick with it until the end, which I think is brilliant because you have to commit yourself to that, and it adds a bit more immersion and kind of you get a little bit more attached to your NPC.
Yeah, so first of all, nighttime needs to be darker. It was way too bright out to be nighttime. Like, yeah, I was at one point. It says it's nighttime, and I'm looking around. I'm like, is it? Because there's sunlight coming through that window over there, and yeah, it doesn't look like it's so. I don't know whether that's just a thing in the map. Like, so day-night has a cycle. It doesn't. I don't know that it necessarily, and I might be wrong on this, but I don't know that it necessarily operates off a real day-night cycle in the game. It's more of like a timed thing, like. Like think of the sandstorm. So it'll say like 20 minutes until nighttime, and then it ticks down, and all these events happen while it's daytime. And then when it becomes nighttime, it's like you have 35 minutes of nighttime left, and all of the outposts get attacked. The guys that you have to escort, you want to escort, die very easily if you're not careful. You can run supply yourself back to these rally points to help boost the weapons they get and make them stronger. There's a lot of protection. You're basically trying to protect what you have unlocked during the day. And if you don't protect it, when it becomes day again, you need to retake those objectives in order to get them back. So it was definitely an interesting mechanic. We don't know exactly, like, we kept getting like these question mark rewards. I don't know whether that's like a new, I don't know whether that's a new currency for the map or, but whatever those rewards were, and they had like blue, green. I got one of the rare ones for something. I didn't see any exotics, but I'm sure they probably exist as well. I just hope that these are in the wallet somehow. I hope that we don't have to like carry these around. Not that I had a whole lot of them by the end of the beta, and certainly we couldn't spend them because it's unfinished at this point. But there's definitely some kind of map currency. Whatever those rewards are, we don't know. There was I did run into a Itzel trader of some kind. He had a big glyph over his head, a big green glyph.
Yeah.
But you need to unlock that mastery in order to really talk to him. And I think people tried, and it wasn't really active in the beta just yet. But I guess we'll see. It was interesting, though. The day-night cycle was interesting. I think I just want nighttime to be more nighttime, to look visually darker. I mean, I don't want it so dark that you need a torch to see. But, like, sometimes it looked like it was daylight out, and it's like the night cycle, and it's like...
It could be kind of like the underground maze in the Silver Wastes. When you go into that, it's, or rather the story instance that was in there that was really dark, and you kind of had to use, I think it was Casimir when the labyrinth, when you found Casimir, she kind of lit it up a little bit, and I remember a dev saying that the initial map used to be like almost pitch black, and like they didn't even like playing it because you couldn't see anything. So what if there was like, what if it was like really dark, and then you would have to do or maintain a certain outpost that has like lanterns or something that would light up and make it a little bit brighter. And if you lose that outpost, then you're kind of screwed because you're in really, really dark darkness. Something like that.
Well, that's interesting because in the vanilla game, which I guess we're going to end up referring to it as now, there's a lot of heart quests where you actually have to go along and light torches to kind of guide like caravans ways or keep Essens away or stuff like that. So incorporating that into a quest chain where you say like if an escort has to go to another outpost or something, first you have to go and light the way on these torches, and then every now and again the Mordrim attack and try to extinguish the torches to kind of break the supply chain. I think that'd be a really cool way to do it. And like you say, it gives a little bit more atmosphere, and it will enable them to kind of darken the night cycle, which as well was kind of long. It was like 45, 50 minutes.
It was pretty long. Yeah, it was pretty long. There are a lot more events that happened during. It felt like anyway that there were a lot more events that happened during the night cycle as well. Yeah. But it was pretty long. I mean, daylight wasn't shorter or anything like that.
No,
it was
it's
long as well. But yeah, that night cycle was pretty lengthy, or a pretty good length.
I liked it very much.
Do you guys think that you had enough time in the beta? Do you think it was long enough?
I do. Yeah.
I don't, but
but then you played 2 hours, right? So
I only got to play one session. I can understand the way they set it up to give the opportunity to people in different time zones, but giving you a map that size just for 2 hours if you can only make one. Obviously, it's like bug testing and all that kind of thing, but obviously, people are going to be in who want to play it as well. I think 3 might have done it. I think 3 would be nice for the next one, or just kind of. Well, even the next one might just be a beta weekend, if we're
that'd be nice.
I felt like for the content we had, after about 3 hours, I think I had explored all the map. I had at least unlocked gliding. I did a decent amount of events. There were tons of events I missed, like I just didn't get to see or do, or there weren't really enough people to complete successfully when I was playing. But 3 hours gave me a good amount of time. Now, we didn't have specializations. Revenant still isn't quite finished. If we would have had 3 specializations with this beta, I mean, you would have needed way more time. I know I certainly would have needed more time to play and test that stuff. So whenever we get specializations and stuff, I would expect us to start to see full weekends at that point, perhaps, or maybe like a 24-hour session where you can You play a couple of hours, take a break, play a couple of hours, whatever.
Yeah.
For what they're giving us right now, the 2-hour blocks work decently well. I mean, time zones aside, some time zones are going to work better for others. People in Europe or even maybe Australia probably didn't work out so awesome this time. But even the UK was a bit, bit late.
It was
for most
a bit.
Of the time.
I mean, I played 2 sessions, right? I played about 4 hours, and so I ended up finishing. I think it was around 2:30 in the morning. I think. After everything had wrapped up. I mean, it wasn't too bad.
I think the third one started at like 4 a.m. or something.
It was 4:30 until 6:30 in the morning. Yeah, which I was keen on doing like the whole day, and then as soon as I finished the second one, I just really
so I only played 2 sessions, and I can, I think the second session ended at like 12:30, 30 past midnight my time. I was definitely I was definitely ready for bed by then. But yeah, I think like 3.5 hours I had pretty much seen and done everything that I wanted to, with the exception, like I said, of I missed one of the adventures. I just couldn't get it to unlock for me, and there were definitely events that I missed. But other than that, I got to experience, I think, pretty much everything that the beta had.
But yeah, Heart of Thorns looks like it's going to be something special. Just from like the few hours that I played, and the thing is, I get really easily hyped about stuff. So this could just be me just going, oh my god, it's going to be. But like the class, the detail on the new maps, the amount of stuff to do, the new mechanics,
it's amazing. It's just
you guys have really like re-hyped me up just describing the map. Just describing the map and how gorgeous it is. 'Cause to be honest, I was a little worried about I was like, oh, it's going to be a new map. It's going to be beautiful, but at the same time, it's going to be like covered in margin vines, and it's going to be like, I didn't want it to be like ugly. I don't want to use that word, but you know what I mean? Like dark and dank, and we're going into the jungle. Like I know there's going to be beautiful, like the Golden City. I'm sure is going to be amazing, and stuff like that. And the canopy is besides the packed airships on fire. Is probably going to be you're going to get these beautiful vistas. And but hearing you guys describe it, just like the Mordrum vines, like look like they're breathing now, and they look like they're alive. That makes me so excited.
I mean, like, I had the exact same worry, right? Because I thought it was kind of going to be, like, one theme all the way through it, and it was kind of going to get stale quite quickly or something. But there's just so many little bits to it. Like like, Sun God Shrine that Inks was talking about, like, the Itzel village place, there's, like, ancient ruins. Like, there's just so much to look at there. It's amazing. And just the detail of everything is... I mean, we were talking about, the player character talking... when they first showed it off in the story instance, right, which was amazing. But, like, even when you're just walking around, how, like, some NPCs will try and call you over to them to talk to them.
Yeah.
Like, I just walked past the guy, and then my character started saying, like, oh, how can I help, to the guy that I have to walk past, and stuff like that. And it's, like, just... The detail is incredible.
That is cool.
It's just going to be amazing.
So in the story...
For that kind of stuff. Oh.
In the story, without talking about the actual story... When you get to certain story plot points or certain points in the story, even when you finish the first story, you can stick around and talk to... They'll have this little white box with a green star in it, and those are people you don't have to talk to, but if you do talk to them, they provide an extra level of detail or information that isn't readily available just by playing the story. So in other words, they provide a different amount of insight to... what their thoughts are, what's going on. And if you talk to a Char, you get one insight, and if you talk to an Azura, you get kind of a different insight as to what he kind of thinks about it, as opposed to whoever. Yeah, so that was a really nice touch as well.
It's like optional depth kind of thing. It's brilliant.
Yeah. When I was streaming it, I think a lot of people have seen, you can choose to go with Larenthir or the Char to either collect stuff for the outpost or go to Larenthir. And I was typing in chat. I was like, right, chat, we're gonna choose which one we can do. We're gonna choose. And then everyone was like, yeah, you can't do that. You can only choose Larenthir. I was like, oh, damn it.
See, I was really torn, right? Because obviously I main a Sylvari, and so because I knew that the choice was gonna happen, right? Because I played the demo at Rezzed, and so for like a good minute or so before I spoke to the NPC to choose, I had to think about like whether I was gonna side with my main in the Sylvari, or if I was gonna see what the other side of the story would be like. And then it turned out I couldn't choose the other option anyway, so wasted time.
Let's choose it.
Deep
Not
debates
available
about
in
this.
But I'm looking forward to that stuff, having to properly think about the choices you want to make in the story.
Yeah.
That's just going to be amazing.
The story is interesting too in that it feels like it teaches you a little bit of the map's current mechanics. So like you get to the end of the first story and there's a part where you start getting attacked, and it's kind of like I believe it's like a night cycle timer or something that starts to happen, and it's like survive or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's rocks or something. Says something about we just have to stay alive till dawn or something like that,
wow.
just before the enemies arrive. So it kind of introduces you to that, the fact you're gonna have to fight through the night kind of thing just to live through the day.
Right.
Oh wow.
It was
so
cool.
I was kind of feeling a little bit like Peachy, and that I was sort of feeling a little kind of depumped in a way. But listening to you guys is totally, man. I really freaking can't wait for this bloody thing to come out. There's just especially because I like to follow lots of different MMO games and stuff, and there's so much stuff gonna be coming with the Heart of Thorns and the basic mechanics that Guild Wars 2 has. It's like, man, it is so wicked, the stuff that's coming. Like, especially how like this is all just one like biome of one map, and if we get at least 3 maps, that's a lot of
insane.
That's a lot of turkey. It's just like
these, I think ArenaNet at one point had said something to the effect of, these maps are not quite as large as some of the other maps, but there's a lot more playable space. Bullkitten. These maps are rather big. They're rather large, and we haven't quite. I don't think the canopy covers the whole size of the map. I think there's different parts of the canopy around the map.
Right.
And I think like the underground has different parts of the underground. I don't think like the whole underground is the whole ground level is the whole canopy. Like they're not all equal, but there's like the whole ground level, and then there's parts of the canopy in different areas, and then there's probably parts of the underground in different areas.
Yeah. It's not like you could just go up and down stairs and you've kind of got this zone-sized section or anything like that. It fits the world, right? Like a cave that goes down and then you're in the depths kind of thing, and just different areas that go up and down.
Yeah, like those areas will be sizable. They will be.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
You combine those with the ground floor, and you definitely have more than just any regular map interior currently.
Yeah, 100%.
With the exception of like maybe Lorner's Pass, which is just this, like one of the largest maps they have. Right, it's just a super long map. Other than Lorner's Pass, like Verdant Brink definitely compares equal to, if not slightly greater than, a Queensdale or a Kessex Hills or something like that.
And it feels so much bigger as well, just because of how detailed it is in all the sections, and it's just
I'm excited to
so
just
good.
experience the game again. Like I know the feeling that I got when I first started playing the game, and every new map I came across, I would just stop and just look at the environment. And 2 to 3 years into the game, you do that, but you don't appreciate it as much as when it was new.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to getting that feeling back of just everything being new. There's stuff I haven't seen, and because of the depth of this map and the detail and the nooks and the crannies, I feel like it could be, a year into playing this, I could discover somewhere that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah. Well, with masteries, there's going to be places restricted like that, and it's going to
That
take you even
too.
longer. You're going to actually have to, earn your way into certain areas of the maps and stuff like that, which is just... It's going to make that kind of sense of exploration all the more amazing, right? Because you're working towards it.
And you can't just go in there and see everything that there is right away as soon as it launches.
Yeah.
You're going to have to build up to that to be able to glide there or to jump there. Love it.
Here's the other thing too.
Okay, yeah.
About masteries. Gliding is cool, and it will definitely get you to some places you couldn't before, and it will definitely shortcut a lot of things. However, mushrooms should not be overlooked because the mushrooms were everywhere in the map. Not just jumping mushrooms. There were speed mushrooms like every 10 feet, it felt like. The speed mushrooms were littered throughout the map. And if it wasn't a speed mushroom, it was a jumping mushroom to get you to someplace. So, you know, the mushrooms were just as big a part as gliding was in the map. And I think it's really nice to see how equal they were in terms of, like, viability for the map.
Yeah, I mean, there's an event, right, that you have to climb, like, you have to climb these cliffs, basically, right, to collect wyvern or wyvern eggs from the top. And then you have to bring them back down the cliffs to give them, like, hand them into an NPC. And so, like, I was getting annoyed because it took ages to jump up this cliff, and I was like, yes, because I can just glide down and hand it in. And then you remember that you have to jump all the way up, but if you had the mushroom thing, like, you know, you could just get up in 2 seconds by jumping up. So I think, like, it's this perfect blend of them both being super useful and super fun, and yeah, I don't know, I need them both. I needed them both. I only managed to get one mastery thing, so...
Yeah, and speed mushrooms are like 3 into mastery, so it wasn't something I could unlock.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Ak.
I was just gonna say again, just like I'm like again just like so excited for the speaking aspects because like Corvus, you're like saying how like even like not in the story missions, your character is still talking back to characters that talk to you, because like we've all like seen or played or at the very least like seen like the South Park game Stick of Truth, right? Where like they make fun of the gaming convention of how like our actual characters when we're playing games, whether it's MMO or not, they're almost always like dead silent. Like they're like either not talking or they actually are totally silent, and it is kind of this kind of annoying thing. And it's like there's so many games still that make your character have no actual say, so you're just in Stick of Truth. It's really weird. It's like this guy is not saying anything. He's like the hero is just completely silent. You're like, okay, whereas the fact that like Guild Wars 2 feels like one of the only ones, certainly one of the only MMORPGs I think that is actually focusing so well on this, and this is making me so excited because I just love, well, just with my vision issues anyways, I love more audio aspects like that to illustrate and bring the story out. I find it's really rich, even if it's the same dialogue again and again. I find just passing through an area, it just makes it more alive when you hear casual conversations.
Exactly. And that's one thing that it's like I have to say, it's just that like Verdant Brink is like alive as heck. It's amazing. Like, I mean, the day and night cycle is one thing, but you see helicopters flying down, you know, getting smashed and stuff like that. Like everything is moving, everything's doing something, and it was just, I've not really had an experience like that in Guild Wars before, you know, like okay, you have the sense of exploration again like when you first started playing, but the way the map's built now is so much more dynamic than anything we've seen that I think when we get into Heart of Thorns and properly start exploring, it's going to be better than our first steps in present day Tyria for sure.
Just going back.
Go ahead, Alex.
I was just going back to what Ark said about the character having the voice. What I really felt even in this beta map was that it was almost immediately more about your character than perhaps it had been previously, because everyone kind of jokes about Traherne taking the credit for killing Zaitan and all that kind of thing, but I think with the vanilla game and with season 2 there was a lot of setup for the established characters. So I think a lot of the focus was on NPCs, and I think you get that a little bit in Warcraft. You certainly get it in Lord of the Rings Online, because you just meet members of the Fellowship like it's going out of fashion. You're just like, oh, it's
so
Gandalf, it's Legolas, it's Gimli, it just goes on and on and on. But in Heart of Thorns, it's just kind of like everyone turns to you and just go, right, dude, what are we gonna do? And you're there, and it feels so nice that it's your decision to make about how it's going to proceed.
I mean, you're the commander, right? And they've just had everything destroyed, and then you turn up, and it's like, and you can feel how desperate and, you know, endangered they feel, and then, you know, you're there to call the shots and calm everyone down, and it's so good.
So Corvus was saying at one point, And I think this happens when you first enter Verdant Brinked, but you first enter Verdant Brinked, and as you're running along, or you're running up to like the first story, or maybe it's the first cliff, these helicopters are just crashing all around you. Like all hell is literally breaking loose. And it just sets, like if you have the volume and sound and everything turned up, it just sets this, like what the hell is going on when you first enter this map, because it seems like everything is getting destroyed around you. And Obi brought up a good point in chat, and I did get to catch this. It was fantastic. But just talking about like ambient conversation, this isn't necessarily your character talking, but one of the main characters, Larenthir, or one of this main NPCs, I guess, that you deal with at first, Larenthir has... I'm not going to spoil the conversation, but he has a very interesting conversation with the pack troops where they're arguing over a variety of things. And then the Mordrum kind of attack, and it's kind of like, do we either have to put our differences aside or die, basically?
Yeah. It was super dramatic as well.
Yeah, so dramatic, such a great moment. And those moments, they're sadly, they can be easy to miss. But if you catch those moments, if you wait around, if you do those events, there's quite a few of them in the map that I've seen, and they are absolutely fantastic.
All right, we are going to wrap up the live show there. We will continue to talk about all of this in the post-show on Twitch. If you're watching live on Twitch, thank you so much for being here, and I will I will link everything places you can find us over in the chat box. And if you are watching on YouTube, make sure to scroll down below. In the description box has links to all of our YouTube channels and Twitters. Of course, our Twitters are also displayed right here on the screen, and you can click them to go to our YouTube channels. So thank you everyone for watching. I'm not sure what we're going to be talking about next week. Maybe a specialization? Are we going back to specializations?
Maybe.
We'll have to wait and see.
I don't know.
We'll find out. We'll find out. All right, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Mwah.
Take
See
care.
you later.
Bye for now.